This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Welcome into the FNIA podcast, served by Applebee's. Feels good to be served by Applebee's. Gentlemen, we got Tony Dungy right there in the middle. Rodney Harrison on the outside. It's great to see you guys again, and we are, of course, off to Atlanta. We have the Falcons, Monday Night Football. The Atlanta Falcons caught themselves right in the middle of some huge headlines. So I want to take you right to the end of the game, right? So you're up by 3 if you're Philadelphia, inside the 20, actually right there at the 10-yard line. And the play call from the Eagles was to swing it out, throw the ball to Saquon Barkley, and, of course, he dropped it even though he was wide open. Coach, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on how it all played out.
Jack, we're in the truck on Sunday. You and I and Rodney talking about this because we saw it play out twice. Tampa was in the same situation against Detroit, threw an incomplete pass. Cleveland had the same situation against Jacksonville, threw an incomplete pass. And we're sitting there thinking, what are you doing? Run the ball, run the 40 seconds off the clock, trust your defense. Don't give the other team a chance. Yeah, you can say it was wide open. A lot of things can happen on pass plays, tip balls, incomplete, drop ball. You just cannot take that chance. You don't need to take that chance if you're Philadelphia with that power running game, Rodney.
Excellent points, Coach. And it all starts with the head coach, Nick Sirianni. And you told me this something years ago. I asked you about taking charge of an offensive coordinator's call. And you said what you do in that situation, you pick up the phone, you call your offensive coordinator, and you say, run the football. You don't tell them the specific run.
Yeah.
You just tell them, make sure you run the football. And the whole entire game, the tush push, they're getting 3-4 yards. If it's me and you want to be aggressive in that situation, that should have been 4-down territory. You run it on 3rd down, you come right back, you line up in the tush push, you get the 4th down, and you go on to win the game. Why get cute? And it goes back to what I always say, Coach, with these offensive coordinators. They are so bent on becoming head coaches. All they want to do is pass, but the obvious plays they don't want to make because they're not splash plays.
Yeah, and we're all over Nick Sirianni, but as we said, we saw it 2 other times that weekend, and we said the same thing. Now, Jacksonville throws a pass in the end zone at the end. It's incomplete. So Cleveland wins the game. Nobody says anything about it. Tampa's defense stops Detroit. Nobody says anything about it. But it was the same situation. And if you're Philadelphia, you got the biggest offensive line in football. You've got Saquon Barkley. Run it up in there. If you want to change it up, fake it to Saquon and have Jalen Hurts run it. But as you say, Rodney, I would have gone to my offensive coordinator and said, hey, we cannot throw the football, we can't have a penalty, and we can't run out of bounds. Whatever you want to do other than that, I'm fine with it.
Yep. And Atlanta had no timeout. So even if you just run the ball, get stuffed for no gain, you're going to run that clock down to maybe 60 seconds, and then you're going to kick that timeout. Now, how fast Atlanta went back down the field, you talk about the mistake with the play call and throwing it, but how about defensively for the Eagles and the way they were just shredded down the field? They scored with still 30-plus seconds on the clock, talking about Kirk Cousins and company.
Yeah, for me, I look at the reason why Kirk Cousins was brought in, because last year the Falcons found themselves in so many close games in the 4th quarter with a young quarterback trying to win the game. And time again, he would always make the key mistake. They went out and they got Kirk Cousins. They went out and drafted Michael Penix. They took care of that quarterback situation. The first week we looked at Kirk and was like, what the heck? This is the reason why you were brought in. Kirk seems like he had more confidence in his leg. He felt like probably he was a little bit more used to the scheme. And he came out and he played tremendous. And, Coach, to me, I when they started going in that hurry-up offense, I started saying, why don't offenses come out in that even more? Because what it does is it puts the defense on its heels and it takes away our aggressiveness. And then all of a sudden we feel like we're being attacked. But it worked out perfectly. And that's the Kirk Cousins. That's the Kirk Cousins that the Falcons brought in. That one right there, getting it done in the 4th quarter.
And Rodney, how huge was that for Atlanta? Just think, if Philadelphia had run the ball and run the clock out, you don't have that last drive. And then what would all the talk be in Atlanta right now? Well, is Cousins okay? Is he really all right? We saw one game against Pittsburgh. They didn't do anything. This game, he didn't do a lot against Philly. Can he still do it? Is it time for Penix? That's what we'd be talking about right now. But one drive, as you say, to light it up, take it right down the field, score, win the game, great locker room celebration. Now it's, hey, let's bring on the Chiefs. Let's go. Kirk's our guy. And that's what one play can do for you.
That's
And
life in the
Philly,
NFL.
if you're Philly, you go from being, close to being 2-0, where you're rocking with, you're like, okay, man, we're 2-0. We're playing great on defense. We're getting better on the offensive line. Now all of a sudden you're 1-on-1. Guys are questioning the head coach. You're starting to question the offensive coordinator. Now you're starting to have, guys looking strange at each other. You just in those situations as a coach, you have to make sure you go over those situations in practice. So when they happen, Coach, we used to walk through them. We used to watch tape on situations. It was so big for us. And we used to do that every single day. And for the life of me, I just think that Nick Sirianni, he has to take more control. I understand you want to respect your offense coordinator, but you as the head coach, like you said, hey, you have the responsibility of the entire team. You have to make that call, even if it feels like you're stepping on his toes. You got to do what's best in the best interest of the entire team, not one person.
Yeah. And then, Jack, we have to go back to that last drive on defense for Philly. You bring in Vic Fangio. We talked about the new DBs and this new secondary, and they're playing with so much confidence. Well, it's a 25-yard pass, down in the corner. And then it's man-to-man inside technique where a guy catches an out route and goes out of bounds. And then it's Darius Slay looking in the backfield. 3 plays, they're down the field 50 yards in 20 seconds and didn't really have to use a timeout.
Yeah. And the big surprise, Jack? You know what the big surprise to me was? It was just how the Falcons' offensive line just straight up bullied the Eagles' defensive line. They pushed them around. At first, early in the game, they struggled with some pass rushing. And then all of a sudden, the offensive coordinator got smart. He said, let's run the football. And that's when the offense started to ignite. But for the offensive line of the Falcons to push the Eagles, I never thought that would happen, Coach.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Atlanta, they ended up scoring so fast, you're thinking, oh, they might have left Philly too much time. They left them 30-some seconds and still had the timeouts. I mean, it was that fast that they just ignited straight down the field. But to your point, Hot Rod, that's what happens when you have a veteran quarterback who is playing like a veteran quarterback. All right, so let's take a look at who is eating good, served by Applebee's. We'll circle back at the end of the show for Atlanta and Kansas City coming up this weekend. I think you got to start with the New Orleans Saints and the way the Saints are playing offensive. This is one of the best stories in the NFL through a couple of weeks.
Jack, I did not see this coming. I thought New Orleans would be good, but to just be so dominant on offense, Alvin Kamara has made a big difference getting back in the lineup, as Rodney would say, getting them that run threat. But, man, Derek Carr has been on fire. They have been fantastic on offense.
And I look in the secondary, Coach. I think this might be the best secondary in the league. You start talking about Marshawn Lattimore didn't even play, but you got Paulson Adebo. You got Alante Taylor. Them guys are out there making plays. Tyrann Mathieu, he's been a tremendous leader as he's gotten older as a player. And you start looking at what they've done on the offensive side of the ball. You look at Carr, man. Carr is out there doing Michael Jackson dances. He's slinging the ball down the field. You got Rashid Shaheed, who's really the NFC's version of Tyreek Hill. Man, this kid is – and then Alvin Kamara looks like he's 25 years old, Jack. This is a new attitude, a new defense, a new offensive line. They're playing tough and physical. Man, it's really, really fun to watch.
Yeah. Now, I do want to
15 yards, 65 receiving yards, and 4 total touchdowns. It sounds like a month's worth of work. That was one game.
Yeah, no, he is hot. They've been playing great football. But let's go back and take a look. Remember now, we're only at week 2. We don't know how good the Carolina Panthers are. We thought the Dallas Cowboys were great. We thought the Cowboys were playing fantastic defense. We still don't know how good they are. So let's just hold off. Carolina, Dallas, is that a big test? Definitely Saints eating good right now, but let's see how the rest of September plays out.
Hey, Coach, you know that old saying, you can only play who's in front of you. And we know that Carolina is really, really bad. But for them to go and do what they did against the Dallas Cowboys, which – they got some talent on defense. They got some talent, obviously, on the offensive side of the ball. Won 12 games the last couple of years. I thought that was pretty impressive right there.
So, something else interesting I was looking at is the coming off play action. They've been using more play action this year, talking about the Saints. And last year, Derek Carr, the best QBR in the NFL on play action. The only downside is the Saints used it at a lower percentage than any other team in the league. So coming into this year, something they looked at, they've been going to that play action, and the results have been there for them.
And I think that's where Kamara has helped. Now, when you are running the ball on first down and getting chunk yardage and people have to defend that, it makes the play action even more effective, and it makes your offensive coordinator think we can use it now because we do have a threat in the running game. And it's been outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of Taysom Hills, man, and just what he brings to this offense, what he brings to the team. When you see a guy, like if I see a guy playing 3, 4, 5 different positions, running down on kickoff, playing quarterback, playing fullback, playing tight end, playing wide receiver, I got so much respect for him, coach. And just think about how unselfish of a player you have to be and how smart you have to be able to move around in those different positions. Have you ever had a player that was that good that could do all those multiple things, coach?
Not that versatile. He is amazing to me. And when you're right, what a lift that gives your whole team. When you see your quarterback catch a ball and run over a safety man, that makes everybody on the sideline get excited.
It does. All right, Sam Darnold, he's been eating good too. Goes up against the 49ers. That was his team from a season ago. Got to give some credit to Flores and the defensive scheme. Now back-to-back years that he has shut down Shanahan. But Sam Darnold's found a home, and it looks pretty darn good in that purple of Minnesota.
Coach, you want to do Sam Darnold?
I will. I have to tip my cap to Kevin O'Connell. He has taken quarterbacks. We were out in Denver last year, and he's got Josh Dobbs with 2 or 3 days practice, doesn't even know who the players are on his team, and he's got him playing decent football. Been through a bunch of quarterbacks. J.J. McCarthy gets hurt this year. Hey, we're going to plug Sam Darnold in, and he's played lights out for 2 weeks in a row now. And we could say, well, week 1, that was the Giants, and who cares? This was a good San Francisco defense, Rod, that he went after and really played very good football.
I thought he played terrific football, and you talk about Brian Flores and what he's brought, and just seeing him in his natural element, being a defensive coordinator where he's most comfortable, not having to be the head coach, worrying about every aspect of the team. Some guys are just meant to be coordinators, and I look at him and I say, this guy is at his happiest. He's at his most peaceful place when he's around those players and he's designing defenses. When you have a quarterback like Brock Purdy come up to you and say, hey, man, your defenses are crazy. How do you design all this stuff? That lets you know that it works. But not only that, veterans want to come in and play in your system because they know this is an opportunity for them to make a lot of plays to get their hands on a lot of balls. You look at Ivan Pace Jr. He's been fantastic, the middle linebacker. He's flying around. Them guys do a great job of disguising. They show you 5, they rush 5, they drop 4, they rush 4. Coach, they do all types of crazy schemes. It's actually really fun to watch.
It is fun to watch, and I agree with you on Brian. And I'll just say this, before we write him off as a head coach, let's think back about 30 years. There was this really successful defensive coordinator with the Giants who went to Cleveland and didn't really have a great record. And people said he was harsh and tough. And then he went back and coordinated for a little while, and then he became head coach of the New England Patriots. And I think in his second time around, he did pretty well, I think.
Yeah. What was that guy's
name? And you know what, Coach? Hold on, that's a heck of a point. But what I'm saying now is you need these moments as a coordinator to help build your confidence, to help build your rapport and communication and just how you deal with everything to mature and to grow into that role. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be a head coach, but I'm just saying he looks most comfortable right now in this role as defensive coordinator.
No, I agree with you. And I'm just thinking that maybe another year or 2 like this and these great performances from the Vikings defense, he gets another shot. He's learned some things, and who knows what's going to happen at that point with Coach Flores.
Agreed.
And you got to imagine he's watching with his first opportunity. He's trying to emulate everything he saw for Bill Belichick. How could you not? I mean, the guy had all the success in the world, and you saw the way he was hard on defensively, he was hard on quarterbacks, and he's trying to take that same style. But it's a little bit of a different NFL now. It's not quite as old school. You're seeing the McVays, and you can go through a list of guys now that are a little more positive, a little more upbeat with their style of coaching. You don't have quite as many screamers. And I wonder if he gets another shot as a head coach, if he'll have a different style, maybe specifically with the quarterback position, but just with his approach overall.
Well, you have to be yourself, and Sometimes it just doesn't work in some places. And getting fired isn't the worst thing in the world, always. I got fired, and it ended up being okay for me to go to Indianapolis. So.
Amen to that.
And you know what, Coach? It almost seemed like it fired him up. It gave him even more intensity. It almost lit a fire up under him, and that passion. You could just see it when he's out there. He's cheering. He's going out there hugging his guys, and that's what you want. Your defense coordinator to be very close with his players.
And those guys have responded. They're playing excellent defense.
But Rodney, you mentioned the sound that we heard right after the game, and it's really the ultimate sign of respect when you heard Purdy and what he said to Flores. Let's play that clip right now. This is right after the win.
Great job. Great job. The scheme is great.
Nice.
Now everybody's going to try to do Brian Flores' scheme, but they don't realize this is something that you don't learn overnight, Coach. Yeah. This is something they've been doing in OTAs. They've been walking through. They've been meeting. This has been going on for months. And then when you have a crazy defense like that, you got to have veterans that understand they need to be where they need to be. If I'm next to if I'm next to the linebacker and we're dropping in zone, I can say, hey, man, you take my zone over there. I'll take your zone. But we all have to be on the same page. And that's why he loves veteran players, because they do a great job of communicating, letting each other know, hey, I'm going to be over here, and handling all the adjustments of the defense. Now, in this defense, Coach, you know better than me, there's a lot of holes. There are a lot of gaping holes because guys that might blitz the wrong gap, they might get washed away, and that cutback might come. So you're going to see a lot of big plays available in this defense, but they don't care about that. They want to put you in third and long, and they want to create pressure and force easy turnovers. That's what the goal of that defense is.
And you talk about people copying the scheme. It's more than X's and O's. It's Brian Flores dialing up the right call at the right time. And sometimes I'm faking the pressure and dropping out. Now the next time I'm coming and keeping the quarterback off balance. And that's where he's done a great job.
Nothing like respect from the opposing quarterback, though. When he's saying that right after the game, that hits a little different.
It tells you a lot. It tells you a lot.
Let's get to the LA Chargers. You want to talk about eating good. Harbaugh. Couple of games, that's all it took, and he's got them eating good out there, Hot Rod, your old squad.
Hey, man, I told you, Coach, in the playoffs, was that last year or the year before? Was that last? Yeah, that was last year. I told you in the playoffs that this guy would be the right guy for him. And think about it. It's been 2 weeks. We haven't had any distractions, no arguments, no discussions about 4th and 1 or holding or a missed field goal or any sarcasm. They finally have a leader. They have their culture set, and he's the leader. And, all the players have said it. They're happy that he's there. He holds guys accountable. We see Justin Herbert. He's already seems or appears to be a lot tougher, Coach.
You know what I love, Rodney? You mentioned Justin Herbert. Well, he's there, the centerpiece of the franchise. They bring in a coach who was a former quarterback. You think, I'm going to build everything around this guy. I'm going to make Justin Herbert fantastic. Jim Harbaugh says, no. I'm going to go back to my roots. We're drafting an offensive tackle. I got another offensive tackle in place. We're going to be smash mouth, power, tough. That's going to be our culture. Yes, we got a great quarterback and we're going to use him. But you know what? We are going to be tougher than whoever we play. And I think that's been the key.
And how about what we've seen from Dobbins? 130-plus yards in both these games, the touchdowns in both of these games. But, Coach, I think you made a great point with Joe Alt, and you pair him with Slater. That's got to be one of the best tackle combinations really in the entire league. You got Johnson at left guard, Pipkins at right guard. And so their offensive, this feels like Harbaugh football, right? I mean, this feels like the way he won a national championship at Michigan. And people are saying he doesn't have the receivers. It's going to take him a year to implement this. Forget about it. It's day one with these LA Chargers. All right, so we did the who's been eating good, but Coach, now let's flip it over. Who needs to eat? Who's a team through 2 weeks you're going, man, that's just not what it should look like?
Well, I'm going to start with the Baltimore Ravens, Rodney. I think our buddy John Harbaugh needs to take the whole team to Applebee's and eat because they don't have an identity right now. They used to be a physical, pounding, run the football, beat you up on defense team, and we're not seeing that in these first 2 weeks.
Well, we see 3 new starters on the offensive line. We see that they missed their defensive coordinator. And to me, Coach, and I said this on Sunday, I just keep thinking – I don't see the same attitude. I don't see the same mentality. there's a certain arrogance about the Baltimore Ravens thinking that, hey, we got Lamar, we got all these weapons, we look good on paper, we can just show up and we'll win football games. In the National Football League, it's not like that. And I think they're getting a good wake-up call. But I think they get back on track. They need to feature Derrick Henry. It's not about making Lamar Jackson the MVP. It's about making Derrick Henry run the ball 20-plus times, wearing down the defense with those big physical offensive linemen. Then everything else is going to open up for Lamar, and then he'll be Lamar Jackson. But you can't put all the pressure on him to have to do everything, Coach, when you have a 250-pound running back standing behind him.
I agree with you. And to me, going down to Dallas, that's what they're going to have to do, attack that defense. If they let Dallas just tee off and get after Lamar in the passing game, it's not going to be pretty. But you pound Big Derrick up in there and make them have to defend that, get back to that, hey, we're the Ravens, we're tougher than you are. Get that attitude back, and I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, but I think the Ravens will be fine too. I think the Bengals will be fine. But the hard thing is now they have given Kansas City a nice little jump start, a nice little lead. They've beaten both these teams, talking about Kansas City. Ravens are 0-2, Bengals are 0-2. So it just feels like this AFC is going to be right back through Arrowhead, doesn't it? And I know it's only 2 weeks, but that's a big head start when you start talking about the top of the AFC.
Oh, you spitting facts right there, Jack. Everything runs through Kansas City.
And when you're the Chiefs, you know everybody's shooting for you, coming after you. You had these first 2 games, Baltimore and Cincinnati. These are our big rivals. But now you've beaten them. You've got the tiebreakers over them. So, yes, you are definitely feeling good.
Who else needs to eat? How about the Carolina Panthers? Panthers are making a quarterback change. Do we like the move?
I'm surprised, Jack. I really am, because you had the first pick in the draft. And we know last year was a tough year, but you bring in Dave Canales, you bring in an offensive coach who's supposed to fix this. I think you've got to go more than 2 games to give him a chance. This seems like very, very fast to me. I remember coaching and coming into Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's 1996. We had a top 5 draft pick in Trent Dilfer. He didn't play his first year. His second year, he really struggled. They made a coaching change and brought me in. General Manager Rich McKay and I got together and we said the first thing we have to do, we want to win games, but we have to find out if Trent Dilfer is our quarterback for the future. I don't care how this year goes. We've got to build Trent, let him play and see what happens. He struggled. We got off to a 1-8 start, but the second half of the year, he played well. We knew he was our quarterback. The next year, we ended up going to the playoffs, started 5-0. He led us to the playoffs twice after that. So I think you have to find out about these young guys, and I'm a little bit surprised, Rodney, that they made this change this quickly.
You know, Coach, I actually think it's a good move, and I think it's a good move for Bryce because you don't want to ruin his entire confidence that he has in himself. They didn't do a great job of surrounding him with a really good offensive line. That most of the time, that's what you do with a young quarterback, and weapons. I mean, they don't have anybody. They don't have any talent. And for me, if he gets an opportunity to sit on a bench and watch a veteran go ahead of him, and he can get mental reps and he can work on getting stronger and getting bigger and stronger physically, but also growing emotionally and mentally and seeing the game from the sideline. I don't think this is such a bad deal because you don't want him to go out there and totally lose his confidence where he can't recover and he can't play with anybody if you decide to trade the kid. So I think this is a good thing for him.
I think it could have been a great thing to start his career that way. Hey, Bryce, you're going to sit there and you're going to watch like Patrick Mahomes did, like Jordan Love did. But to me, this is tough. You are the savior, the franchise guy. You go in there, you have a bad year, you have 2 bad games. Now it's almost like saying you couldn't do it for us. And I don't know how that's going to sit with him and his confidence. But I have to agree with you. Something was going wrong there because you wouldn't make this move just after 2 games if there was any light at the end of the tunnel, for sure.
Well, do you think this is a move? Do you think this is a move specifically by the head coach, or do you feel like he got pressured from the owner or upper management? Because it seems me, if I'm the coach, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think this is from the head coach. There's no doubt about it. I think he feels like this is going to help their team and probably going to help Bryce, as you say. He probably just didn't want to see him keep going out there and not have success.
Because I played on a team that was 1-15, Coach, and it's nothing more demoralizing to seeing a quarterback or offense keep going out there and it's a turnover, it's a pick six, it's a sack fumble. And it frustrates you to the point where you despise those guys. When you look at Bryce, you will be angry at him because it creates bitterness and tension in the locker room. So for me, instead of those guys turning hating him, let him go and chill on the sideline maybe a month or so, maybe 6 weeks, whatever it takes for him to try to learn the game from the sideline and just see it from a different perspective. And I think that's going to help him because if he stays out there, the kid is lost. He's lost his confidence. He's not even really going through his progression. The first thing when he gets back there passing, he's worried about the line of scrimmage, worried about the defenders. He can't even tell if it's cover two, if it's man. It's just a mess, man. And you got to blame the organization. They've done a terrible job, and they need to get rid of some people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're trying to protect him a little bit too, and I'm sure there's probably some thinking that at 0-2 the season's not totally lost yet. Now, does anybody think Carolina's making the playoffs? No, but is there some chance that they can, just start to turn this thing in the right direction? Then maybe you put Bryce back in the lineup if you can start to get the rest of those pieces going. We'll see how it goes. It doesn't look great right now in Carolina. All right, Sunday Night Football, we got Chiefs. And we got Falcons. The Chiefs, another win. So they beat the Ravens. They beat the Bengals in a crazy game against the Bengals. And Atlanta coming off the win over Philly. How do we see this one? Opening thoughts here. Home game for Hot Rod. We'll start with you.
Oh, I'm excited about the Falcons defense. I mean, this is a new system. And a guy specific is Matthew Judon. I mean, he comes from Gerard Mayo's system now. He's learning a new defense. And I think this guy, he plays with a lot of energy. He's a very streaky guy. So in any point, he can go on a streak of, 3-4 games with a couple sacks per game. That's just the type of player he is. And then just looking at the safety position, Coach, you got two of the best safeties in all of football. Jesse Bates, I don't know what he's done, but he's elevated Jack from Cincinnati. From this level, he's taking that next step. Now he's an elite safety. And Justin Simmons, he's really getting used to the system, and he's going to continue to fit in. But I love their defense. Grady Jarrett coming off that injury. He looks really good, Coach. And offensively, if they can get a great Kirk Cousins, oh, my God. I say watch out for the Falcons.
I agree with you. I think the Falcons have a defense that could limit Kansas City. Going to be a different offense that we're going to see without Isaiah Pacheco. Kansas City has not been super explosive throwing the ball. They've really relied on the run, and Pacheco's been great for them. And now if you have to throw more, the liability of those two offensive tackles could show up. And I agree with you. Judon could be a big key. That's one advantage that Atlanta defense has. Their edge rushers going against those tackles. On the flip side, offensively, if I'm the Falcons, you got to come out and run Bijan Robinson against this defense. Keep them off the field. Control the time of possession, control the flow of the game, let Kirk Cousins throw play action passes and work around with that running game. Don't put it all on him. Don't try to get in a shootout. And I think they've got a great shot.
Yeah. And the other thing too is Justin Simmons played in the AFC West basically his entire career. He's very familiar with the Kansas City Chiefs. He knows Travis Kelce. So I anticipate him spending a lot of time with defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, letting him know all the ins and outs about the Kansas City Chiefs. And I expect him, because he's a bigger safety at 6'2", 6'3", to be the guy that's defending Travis Kelce one-on-one.
Yeah, it's a great point. He picked off Patrick Mahomes more than anybody out there in the AFC West, too. So he's going to be familiar with reading his eyes, too. All these new weapons, Worthy, Rice, Pacheco's out, but do you feel like we're reaching that point in Travis Kelce's career now where he's maybe number 2 or number 3 on the list of who do we need to get the ball to, or is it too early to call it?
No,
I
definitely
think it's too early to call. Yeah, he's always number 1. I mean, the guy, he's not as fast as he used to be, of course, who is as you get older, but the guy is still very savvy in his route running. He has a lot of freedom within his route running, so if a guy's playing him on the outside, he can go inside, and vice versa. And that's the guy that, that's the guy that Patrick Mahomes depends on, and he counts on more than anybody on that team. So, no, yeah, he's not as fast or as athletic as he once was, but he's still the most dangerous weapon they have.
Agree, Rodney, whenever we've had the Chiefs and we're out there on the field and we go up and talk to Patrick and we say, hey, this is a big game. What are you going to do? What does he tell us, Rod? Big game. I got to get the ball to 87.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We haven't seen that breakout game yet, but Sunday Night Football, and first time we get to see them out there. We were still for week number 1. Now we see them in person. This could be a Travis explosion on Sunday Night Football. We'll see you out there in Atlanta. Kansas City.
Can't wait to see Rodney in Atlanta at home.
I'm staying with Rod.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.